Thank you for joining us for another interesting episode of The Panel. I am Jennifer Igwe. Nigeria is celebrating 61 this year. In less than 48 hours to our independence anniversary, and already likely activities to mark the occasion have commenced across the country. Speeches, goodwill messages, fanfare, and other shades of felicitations will expectedly mark the special occasion. However, this season also offers Nigerians a terminal opportunity to take stock and appraise the journey of Nigerians' nationhood, and possibly measure current development against the dreams and aspirations of our founding fathers. As it should be, the panel this afternoon takes a look at the checkered history of Nigeria in search of adequate answers to one pertinent question: how well have we fared? I am Jennifer Igwe, welcoming you to this special Independence edition of the program. To discuss our topic today, I have in the studio with me Professor Oladapo Afolabi, former head of the Civil Service of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Good afternoon.
I also have with me Jimoh Mohammed. He is a legal practitioner.
Good afternoon, viewers.
In the studio also we have Dr. Alero Roberts. She is the Vice President, Association of Public Health Physicians of Nigeria, Lagos chapter.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon, everybody.
Online we have Rita Wogu. She is a lawyer and social entrepreneur. Okay, Rita will join us later. We also have online Gabriel Idahusa. He is the Vice President and Chairman Trade Promotion Board, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Good afternoon.
Now, Nigeria was 61. Do we look 61? How in your view would you assessors would you say we look 61? Because there's a difference between a child looking 16 and 61. So let me start with you, Dr. Alero.
Well, I definitely do think we do look 61. We look 61 in very many ramifications, but as to whether we've developed to what you would expect a 61-year-old to be able to accomplish in terms of gender and social position and age, that's another question, and that's what we're here to discuss.
Okay, so what would you say? Do you think we look 61?
Well, we look 61.
How would you?
Not as good as we would have wished, but not as bad as our adversaries too. Painting. So I'll just leave it at that. Because that we can have this conversation under this roof is something to celebrate.
But I think it was pointed out as we were coming into the studio that the building is not faring well for 61 years of no maintenance.
Okay, Prof. I want to hear your view.
Clearly, you look 61.
No, you keep saying we look 61. How?
Well, you can see maybe independence. I was 7 years old at independence. I was in Lagos. I saw Lagos. And when you now see Lagos 61 years later, of course you will see the wear and tear on a 61-year-old in terms of the resources, the way we have used them, and in terms of development. As a young man in Ikoyi, you could look for crabs, you could see clean water. So aging comes also with the use of these facilities. The drainage is gone. You don't have clean water anymore.
The crabs are gone?
The crabs are gone. Many things. Of course, the concrete looks more beautiful. The trees are gone. So, for an old, beautiful lady, compared to when she was like 16, 17, you could see the weathering. So this is what Nigeria is at 61.
I like your analysis. Okay, I'd like to hear what you think. Do we look 61? Before we go to start analyzing all the sectors, I just want to get your general view. Do we look 61?
I say 61, but if Nigeria were a human being, we can say some parts of the body are not really looking like 61, and some are looking like 90 or 100. So if you've got to look at what Nigeria is doing, where they are, compared to a 61-year-old country in, let's say, the last century and this century. So we are on calendar 61, but we're a mixed bag of anything from a 10-year-old to perhaps a 60-year-old or 70-year-old. If you look at political developments, for example, the trajectory of political developments, you look at the trajectory of economic development compared to where Malaysia or Korea and other countries that got independence in 1960, where they are now. Or you look at social development, social welfare for the people of the country, where some countries that are perhaps 20 years old, where the social welfare and the facilities that they can afford to their people are, and where we are. So yeah, it is a human being. I'm sure doctors will have a hard time dealing with the various parts of the body and figuring out which part is really 60 and which part is just like getting out of infancy and perhaps adult age. So it's a mixed bag.
Dr. Alero may want to confirm.
Well, I certainly do. We've had this discussion so many times, particularly when we're looking. You said we were going to analyze sector by sector, and of course, everybody knows. Yes, my two favorite sectors are always going to be health and education. And I kept asking this question: that how, after 61 years, do we still have some areas of the country that are educationally underserved, or in the health sector backwards? How does that, how do we answer that question?
Okay, we've listened to the different analyses, and there are people who are of the view that having a celebration for our anniversary is uncalled for because of the challenges we have in the nation. But would you say, yes, we may not have, some might not think there's need for celebration, but would you say that we have made progress in some areas? Let me start, for instance, with you, Prof. Let me start from in the sector, maybe environment and public service.
We have cause to celebrate. Nigeria. First, Nigeria, I would say, well, whatever anybody says, is America of Africa. So, we are together, we are here. Things work for you in a peculiar way. It's not the standard way that maybe OECD country, the Western world will expect. But things are working. And we need to work hard on that to make sure that things work our way so we can celebrate. But when you look at the expectations of the founding fathers and what we were also taught to expect. Of course, we are not there yet. There are aspirations, though, and then getting there is another kettle of fish. So I would say we have reasons to celebrate. When you look at the environment, of course, we started environment as a structured institution, and all the legislations and everything that also go with it. Compared to other parts of Africa, and I would say also globally, Nigeria is doing well. At one time we were the president of UNEP because of our contributions, not because of it's just Nigeria. And also sitting here, in 1992, thereabouts, they were sourcing up as consultants in this field to China, to other parts of the world. Because of the standard we have laid, because of our proactive nature in taking care of environment. And if you ask in the oil industry, in the other sectors, you will be told that environment, both at the state level, at the federal level, they are knocking on their doors for behavior, for good behavior. And when you look at both the water quality index, air quality index, we've not failed. So I would say if we are not responded in a way that is been positive, maybe it would have been worse.
Prof, I know as Dr. Alero, I mean, and when Prof was talking, I know you kept looking at him like, so I'm sure you didn't agree with some of the things he was saying.
How can I celebrate? How can I celebrate? We have the resident doctor still out. Today is day 60. What am I celebrating? The fact that I'm rushing here from the hospital at my age, I'm still having to work as if I was a house officer? What is there to celebrate? We're now taking up collections to support doctors, to feed their families. What is there to celebrate in a system that is breaking down? What is there to celebrate? I'm sorry, I don't know. I mean, the environmental sector, you guys have clearly done a lot better. I mean, maybe we doctors have to hold ourselves to account and question ourselves. What are we doing here? Because we clearly can't be contributing very much to the nation's development if we can go on strike for 60 days and everything goes on as normal and there's cause to celebrate 61 years of independence. We're clearly doing something very, very wrong. Or maybe we're not even supposed to be in the country at all.
Prof, don't, I mean, Dr. Alero, don't think of moving out of Nigeria because you keep talking about, the last time we had this conversation on brain drain, you seem to be supporting people to leave this nation.
We are not doing well. And if you're not doing well in a place and you are clearly not wanted, why would you stay there? That's just good behavior.
So what you're trying to say that in the health sector, celebration of 61 years anniversary is not something you think should also capture the health sector because
what are we going to celebrate with? Well? What are we going to celebrate with?
There must be some achievements somehow.
Empty plates, empty cars, children out of school. What are we celebrating with? Because if you're going to celebrate, at least you must raise a glass of something, even if it's just water.
Okay, okay. Let's go to the legal judiciary, we keep saying that judiciary is the last hope of the common man. So, with the developments in the judicial sector, 61 years, do you think the judiciary has been the common hope of the common man, the last hope of the common man, and we've had success stories in that sector?
Well, to begin with, I think there is cause for celebration because if Nigeria were a natural human person, once there is life, you celebrate that life first. That we're still together today as Nigeria, as a country, recognized in the Committee of Nations, a cause for celebration. That is it. In the judiciary, where I apply my trade, I think it's a mixed bag. Certain landmark decisions have been delivered. At some other times, what is coming, the vibes coming from the judiciary cause for concern. I mean, before you go to the bench, you must be a lawyer first. So it is elementary that Court of Coordinate Jurisdiction, once a pronouncement has been made on a particular subject matter, or in a particular subject rather, you don't contradict that. The opportunity open to you is to take it upstairs and test, the three wise men at the Court of Appeal, like we call them. If it's an ordinary civil issue, 3 men. If it is constitutional issue, 5 men. And if you are still not satisfied, we have our apex court, which is the Supreme Court. You take it there, and their pronouncement is final on any subject matter, until and unless they set it aside. So in the judicial sector, I would say, well, we've had cases of, not too pleasant news coming about perverting the course of justice, about the judiciary doing some rigmarole and all that. But overall, I would say 60 over 100.
60?
Yeah, that's a pass mark.
Okay.
That's a pass mark.
Okay.
So which 40% of failure is acceptable for us in the health sector? If you fall into that 40%, there's no court of appeal. There's no Supreme Court. There are no 3 wise men or 5 wise men. But there's the mortuary. Is that acceptable?
Well, I can't speak to the health sector though as a Nigerian, I understand the general dynamics and the power play at the sector. For instance, at the bar, we have Nigerian Bar Association. In the medical field, you have NARUD, National Association of Resident Doctors. NMA, which is the umbrella body. And you now have, so NARUD will be on strike. They say, no, the consultants are not on strike. What really? Because health sector should be taken holistically. It's not only doctors. You have pharmacists, you have a lab scientist.
In fact, as I said, cleaner to clinician.
Yeah. So
cleaner to clinician is in the health sector.
Okay.
But unfortunately, if anything happens to you in that health sector, so let me describe a typical scenario why I cannot rejoice. So somebody gets attacked and is rushed to A&E, and the triage doctors do their best, and everybody is on hand, and they patch him up and they deliver the first hour of care. But he needs more care, and he now gets into the health system. And I can describe to you so many scenarios: surgeon gowned and gloved, anesthetists prepped and ready to go, nurses on standby, everybody, theater parts ready, blood ready, lab tests hanging, all the x-rays lit up. What are we waiting for? The oxygen man to bring oxygen from the oxygen room to the theater. He has not signed for the oxygen in the oxygen room. Technician. That's the health sector. That's the health sector. And the patient's life is at stake.
So it means that the health sector is not coordinated. Is that what
it is? It is, but it is so big and so wide. And if everybody is not being carried along at the same time, to the same level, these are the gaps and lapses that we are seeing. And when NARD or any sector of the NMA goes out on strike, it's because we are going to get blamed for what we are no longer in control of. Because in the public sector, we are not allowed to hire or fire. No sanctions can be applied.
Prof, I thought you were going to make a comment there.
No, Prof is smiling. They are calling him for consultancy at UND.
Prof, I
think we have a general problem, which is underdevelopment generally.
But it's
that's why I said we may not be where we ought to be, but it's not as bad as our adversaries, are making it look. We look at the education sector.
Last year, that is a disaster.
Last year,
it's not totally a disaster.
ASU was on strike for 1 whole year. So we have to understand that as a developing, even though we ought to be developed by now, because like Prof said, the 61, but in the life of a nation, 61 years might look very short. But in the life of a human being, 61 years, you should already be taking stock of what you've done with your life.
No, I think one of the reasons why people think we're not where we should be is because Nigeria, we're a rich nation. We're like
rich in poverty, rich in hunger, rich in insecurity.
Not only to my mind.
No. We're like a father who is rich, but somehow some of his children, some are doing well and some are not, and we have the resources. That is why people say we're not where we're supposed to be. Jennifer. Because if we have the kind of money we have in Nigeria with our oil and everything, people think that most of our sectors, like education, health, things,
Jennifer,
we should not be
the poverty
complaining.
we have in Nigeria is poverty of leadership. Let us situate it the way it is.
God bless you, sir. That's what
it is poverty of leadership. Look, if you take tourism alone in Nigeria and we develop it, assuming the environment is secure, we can earn foreign exchange aside from oil. Okay, we have a government, for instance, that want to invest massively on rail transportation, which is good because we need to move our goods from one place to another, especially the heavy duty, so that we have less deaths on our road with this articulated vehicle crushing people. You have an Ajakuta that 2 billion naira can complete. If you complete this Ajakuta, all you are talking of East-West Road, rail line from Lagos to Calabar. You are talking of Eastern Railway from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. Imagine the tonnage of metal you are going to use. Ajakuta will produce it for you.
I think I've been hearing of Ajakuta since I was a kid.
Employment will be generated.
And why are we still hearing of Ajakuta in 2021?
That is one. Now this year, by the time we end December, we have spent over 1 trillion on fuel subsidy. On fuel subsidy.
Oh, that's evil.
Do you know how many refineries that can build?
But we already have the Dangote refinery.
But it's not
one refinery for trillions of...
Come on. See, we should be a net exporter of petroleum product. Why are we importing? Okay, you have 4 refineries. The 2 Port Harcourt refineries, the Warri refinery, and Kaduna refinery.
Then the Dangote
and no, leave Dangote out. It's the private sector, even though government is going to take some stake. And now, in the last 10, 15 years, they are not refining nothing. And you are paying salaries. You are promoting people there. They are becoming executive directors. They are becoming the general managers. They are becoming so... What a waste
abroad with Estacode and all that.
Waste.
That is waste.
Oh, that's one. Okay. Let me bring Gabriel Idahosa in, Vice President and Chairman, Trade Promotion Board. Idahosa, I'm sure you've been listening to our conversation.
Yes.
Looking at the rail sector, I think we've made some progress in the rail sector. We have made progress in the rail sector. Okay, because I know I watched a video of one funny train in Aba, and I was wondering, people were laughing at the train. It looked very old. But I know that in Lagos, for instance, we have the standard gauge line that is working very well, and we also have the Abuja from Abuja to Kaduna.
It's ridiculous.
So whether we like it or not, we've made progress in the rail sector. But we just talked about Ajaokuta and infrastructure. You're from the business world. In our economy, how would you rate us? How would you say we fared? 61 years.
If you take the economy as a whole, if you give a 30%, 25-30% pass mark, you maybe
that's failure. That's not failure.
The country in terms of what should be and what is not. And there are clear pointers to that. 20 years ago, we gave government in its wisdom issued licenses for telecommunications to be run by private companies. And today we see where we are. If 20 years ago government did the same thing, set up a Nigerian Rail Transport Commission and issued licenses for rail transport, we will not be talking of borrowing billions and trillions of naira and dollars to spend on rail. If the government also gave licenses to power companies 20 years ago, we will have uninterrupted power supply now. And I agree 100% with Dr. Alero. A lot of those issues you have in health, you can see are not directly related to health. Power supply, for example, proper education of lower level professionals in any field, including healthcare. So we have a situation where there were very simple solutions to fundamental problems. And about that time, or slightly older, about 25, 30 years ago, this country signed the framework agreement for Nigeria LNG. Nigeria had 49%. Our partners had 51%. Today, the LNG is the largest payer of tax to the federal government and to the states, rivers where they exist. The LNG is the largest payer of dividends to the federal government. The LNG is one of the largest earner of foreign exchange for this country. It just took the leadership to recognize that all that government needs to do, provide the environment for business to thrive, provide the framework infrastructure, legal and regulatory infrastructure, and you have all your rail lines working at the best technology in the world, the same way our telecom industry is working today. So fundamentally, it's down to leadership. It is not down to anything else. It is not down to finance. The federal government is not spending 1 naira on telecommunications today. We are not borrowing dollars from anybody. Rather, the federal government is sending millions of naira and dollars from the telecom companies. The telecom companies are happily doing the job, paying the taxes, are taking on anything we throw at them. Whatever you throw at the telecom companies today, they are not leaving Nigeria. So I think that is the seminal issue of a leadership that has a vision and can see the solutions, and they are not complicated. Both in the case of telecom and the case of Nigerian LNG, we have done it. We don't need the World Bank or an international consultant to tell us that what we did in telecoms, let's do it in railway, let's do it in power, let's do it in the ports, let's do it in all the subsidiaries of NNPC. NNPC has no business of more than 49% in any of the oil and gas companies. And Nigeria will be completely transformed, and we'll be looking at the best world country.
Thank you, Gabriel Idahosa. Thank you, Gabriel Idahosa. Let me bring in Rita and Wogu. Now, for many young Nigerians and people who have their own businesses, for entrepreneurs in Nigeria, would you say in the past 61 years there's been a trend that creates an ambience for anyone who wants to start and run a business in Nigeria? Would you say entrepreneurs are faring well? Please, if you're hearing me, please unmute your mic so that we can hear you. Rita Wogu, if you're hearing me, unmute your mic so that we can hear you.
Okay, hello.
Okay, yeah, we're hearing you now. We're hearing you now.
Hello, yes. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, all right. Yes, as far as I can say, this issue of entrepreneurs in Nigeria, for all we know, they have, as far as I can say, they have had the biggest share of the brunt to bear. It's really very daunting doing business in Nigeria. And we must salute anyone who is able to go into any kind of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. Given the circumstance, given the environment, it is far, far from being conducive. We have the issue of finance. We have the issue of erratic NEPA supply, the high tariffs. I mean, it's a long list of challenges. It's been one of the, for me personally, I have found it really very tasking. And oftentimes, personally, I ask myself how I even ventured into it. But then we just have to forge ahead because we have just one country. We can't run away and play the second fiddle out there. This is the only place we can call a home. This is the only country we know. And the situation we have found ourselves, we need to look up and find solution as for how to adjust, how to reintegrate. And what we are saying is that if only our leaders will be a lot more supportive, we're just asking for an enabling environment, a situation whereby, you see, you cannot access funds, you cannot access capital easily. You've got to go a long mile before you can get it. And then you talk about the infrastructure on the ground. And we have so much to talk about, but let me just say that we could, as a nation, we could do better. And we are hoping that possibly, there will be an intervention so that the authority, they will get to hear and maybe have a change of mind, and there will be a new tide, and such that people who are doing their own in the private sectors, that they will be able to at least fare better in the circumstance we find ourselves. I want to submit that doing business in Nigeria is one of the toughest ventures anyone would undertake.
Okay, thank you, Rita.
Let me provoke.
Okay.
Let me provoke a debate, a conversation here. I've listened, and I know that those of us here are middle age up. You can see the selection. So we are shaving the head of others in the absence, the youth, the younger ones, that are really should be thinking about their own present and future. But the question and the debate is, everybody is looking up, pointing up. And that's what we've been doing for almost 61 years. I don't know what people did before 1960, in terms of how to look, where to look. We must be looking at ourselves at our level. We are complaining. We are looking up somebody, but we are government. We are the people, we are the leadership that we say is poor. We must take it up right now. And at various levels, at various sectors, you will see if we try to solve these problems, somebody we are looking up to will listen and look towards us. And maybe that will bring the solution. I'll give you an example of Zimbabwe, where I taught in the 80s. The University of Zimbabwe used to be the only university. You see this secondary school, who has it? Community. This road, community. This one, all the things working, almost community-based. They took their own destiny in their hands.
So, but Prof, I want to bring you in. Do you know, for me, an Igbo girl, I grew up knowing, thinking that government was far away, because most of the developments in my community were community-based. That's why if you see the Igbo people, they have this meeting they do every Sunday. It's compulsory.
Yes, it's compulsory.
It's usually for community development. So if you come to my community now, you will see the solar light, you see the streets, we have the post office, we have the borehole. It's community effort. But even if there is community effort, Prof, I still think there should also be something from so that people don't think they are marginalized, so that people don't think, which is one of the problems. Yes, which is one of the problems in the Southeast, because the more people keep doing things for themselves as communities, and they see that maybe in other areas
they don't have
to do like that.
The government does it for them.
Okay, it will not begin to bring some kind of imbalance.
I'll give you one clear example.
Okay.
You see, again, I hate to not to flow with the.
No, that's not what
I'll tell you.
Yes.
Let's take the example of Lagos State.
Okay.
In late 80s to about 99, Lagos was like a no-go area. I mean, a lot of crime, deaths, insecurity, all sorts of
wastes
things. Everywhere.
It's like an urban slum.
Then in 1999, Lagos State started getting punished because it wasn't flow with the federal. And that, I would say, was the elixir for Lagos State.
I agree.
So if all of us, we have surrendered everything we have to someone who doesn't care about what was the consequence.
That's exactly where I was going to go.
For you,
right,
take it up yourself. Don't surrender it. Leadership will come. That's my own hypothesis. So we complain from here, we went till tomorrow, nobody is going to listen to us. But if we decide by ourselves, you will see those who are controlling us, we decide. So say, these guys, I think things in their hand will be better kept, will be better multiplied. So what I would suggest, we escalate this community sense upstairs. Who are the people upstairs? We selected them, we send them there. So
this is one of the arguments. You are very correct on that, because last year when NSAS, this is about, we're getting to the first year anniversary of that, and my son was very, very, involved in all of this. And at the time when he started, I think he was a little worried that, mommy and daddy may not approve and all that, only to find out that actually his parents and even his grandfather in his time were all rather rebellious people who yes, activists, and we are kind of people who will push the boundary and ask the hard questions. But I asked him a key question, and I think it was the question everybody was asking: who are the leaders of the NSAS movement, particularly the Lekki Gates, this thing? And he says, oh, that we are so and so is in charge of feeding, and so is in charge of cleanup, but there are no leaders. So I did ask him the hard question: so what is your game plan? And in having no leaders, there was no game plan. So in the same vein that when I'm teaching medical students and they're saying, oh, what are we doing all this for? After all, as soon as I pass my exams, I'm going here, I'm going abroad, I'm going... In fact, the joke of the matter is that almost 40% of the class that is presently is 600 level MBBS have passed the step 1 of their exam.
Abroad.
Yeah. Abroad.
Ready to go.
I mean, and it gives me a vicarious kind of joy that, oh, we are teaching to that level. They're that bright.
But on the flip side.
Exactly.
All our doctors are going.
But then we have to now look. We now look transgenerationally, and we say, okay, when you go, because you go now in the vigor of your youth and everything, your parents can still support you. Your parents will age and start getting ill. That's when you now need to start looking homewards, because the people in my class who went are beginning to look homebound. Now, if, as Prof says, the community takes things into their own hands, and we're doing it little by little, but maybe I shouldn't let the cat out of the bag, but we're doing it little by little in the health sector, and more of these private hospitals start up. They are starting up as multi-specialist hospitals. They're going to be run, we're going to import doctors to run it, but the doctors we're going to import will not be, thank you very much, sir, you are there already. You understand? So we are sending them, they get the training, they make the money, their eyes are still homebound because they all have family back home.
And another issue that we have is that most times we're quick to, if you ask a Nigerian today, now maybe somebody from my state, the first thing they would call is President Buhari. The president didn't do this, the federal level didn't do this, and I'm asking, but we have a governor, which is where someone. When we talk of
even before you reach your governor, where your local government chairman, because I've been pushing that narrative.
Because that is the problem we have in Nigeria. Because fine, we have the president there.
Yes,
but we have a governor.
But that's the
we have a local government.
The presidential system.
Yes. We have a local government system.
The presidential system.
Exactly.
So we must query ourselves.
The way
how we allow it to still stand.
We have to do things differently.
Absolutely.
We want different results. I would prefer, from the Nigerian political history, I would prefer we go back to the Westminster parliamentary system.
Even if it's not that.
Because, one, the presidential system is too expensive for us to run. And it's too, with the way our constitution is drafted, the center is too powerful.
No, but I also think because of that, the chairman and the local government fly under the radar.
Of course they do.
They are supposed to do.
They don't do.
They don't do. I know the common man will always remember the president.
But you know the details. Are they empowered?
That is the problem.
That is the problem.
You see, there are too many things for us that, seriously, I like the sharp mind we have, the critical mind we have, but we should spend more time on querying the status quo and providing immediate solution that works. Not theoretical. We copy the white people too much. And there are many aspects of our lives that have been messed up because we copy these people and we don't know what to do with it.
Same for our education system.
Yeah. That is where I was actually coming to, because if we are not training the young ones to ask the hard questions, then we're losing this critical thinking mind that Prof is talking about.
You see?
Because every time I listen to the young people, I get this first order thinking feedback, knee-jerk reaction, you know? And they're not thinking, they're not analytical, they're not thinking reflexive.
Before tomorrow, or before, get a group of young to come and discuss this same topic.
Yes.
You will
just hear blame game,
you will feel what the future is, if not the present. They're not thinking the way we are thinking. Differently. And their priorities are different. Entertainment is 90%.
100%.
So a nation cannot be a nation only on entertainment. It's just a consumer state.
It's right.
People lead you by some good foreign exchange if you export it to the global community and the global market.
What do you do with the foreign exchange?
Exactly, more.
What do you do with the foreign exchange?
Yes.
You're not developing
if we have a good foreign exchange today, it can do a lot because we are basically
an
import.
Thank you.
And that's the question. In whose hand with the foreign? We have foreign exchange. We have foreign exchange.
No, wait.
People are buying private jets.
Yes.
People are buying private jets.
100 private jets on the airport in Kano.
It will be the same set.
It's in whose hands? You can
they'll use it to create more content. They'll use it to buy Bentley.
We must have it in the hands of those who think of development.
So I agree with your line of thought, and I think it's a very critical issue. We'll take a report now that talks about the about infrastructure, and when we return, we continue with that discussion.
In the last 1 year, the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Rajafashola, has paid about 6 working visits to Lagos State. Apart from the Apapa-Oshodi-Oworun-Shoke Expressway, currently undergoing full reconstruction, his major item of interest is the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, where reconstruction work was flagged off in 2013. With a 2022 deadline, the project, at over 60% completion, is on a home run, and for him, a presidential mandate that touches on ease of doing business soon to be delivered.
This section you are standing on now is almost completed. So there's progress, and with the imminence of dry weather now, you've heard from the contractor, we will double our capacity here.
Already, 90 out of the 127-kilometer stretch has been completed, with 2 major contractors working on sections 1 and 2 of the highway from both ends in Ibadan and Lagos.
I'm sure there won't be any delay because there is no funding problem. NSIA is funding it. Once any section of the job is completed, payment has never been a problem.
The landscape of Oyo-Ogbomoso section 2 of the Ibadan-Ilorin Expressway is also changing, with 47% of the work done.
The recent upgrade in design that we implement on this road should give an answer to increased traffic, to new types of vehicles.
After years of neglect, similar respite will come the way of motorists along Sango-Ota-Idiroko Road, as the federal government also announced plan for total reconstruction of the 64-kilometer international corridor. As they are delivered one after the other, this rejigged road infrastructure are projected to have positive impact on the economy as well as safety of road users. In Lagos, Adini Nta2, NTA News.
Okay, thank you for watching that report. I thought we were going to have our stink before we come to the studio, but we're back. We've just watched that story on infrastructure to show that progress has been made in some areas like roads.
Jennifer, Alero, you are right there. I will not, because you now tell me that we have run out of time. You first told me that, oh, rails, we're making progress. You told me one tiny little rail between Lagos and Ibadan, one other tiny little rail between Abuja and Kaduna. When I was in school, you used to be able to leave Lagos and go by train to Kano.
So you start from one point and take another?
No, straight.
Yes, from Lagos to Kano.
We enjoyed it.
We enjoyed rail.
We stop at Jeba
they used
and
to
eat crocodile.
Thank you very much, sir. You remember? You were there. Now you are telling me Lagos to Ibadan, we should say, hey, you've done well. We are telling me Lagos to Kaduna by road, 2 hours.
They've done well.
They've done well. They are telling me which was that other tiny little Alaja to
Alaja. Well,
please, come on. Now you are telling me how many inches of road we should start hailing them
compared to how it was before.
Please, no, until you can tell me that I can drive from my house to Côte d'Ivoire. I cannot even get from my house to where I work in Pakoto.
Okay, let me bring Idahosa in, Gabriel Idahosa. Gabriel, I want to also say, well, what do you, looking at where we are now, 61 years, if you have to look at the next 10 years, do a projection, what do you think life will be for Nigeria and our economy?
Well, before I try that very native task of projecting, I think it's important to emphasize that in spite of all these problems that have been highlighted, that do really exist, there is definite hope for the country. And this hope is grounded on what is happening now in specific contexts. We have talked about the young people who seem to have lost their track. But if you go to the Yaba Silicon Valley, the Yaba Tech community, you will find 2,000, maybe 3,000, and there are in this country now, about 150 sectors. Many of them don't have plans. But you have young people there who are developing products, whether it's for the healthcare, whether it's for education, whether it's for agriculture. These products are beginning to establish themselves worldwide. One of those companies was recently valued for $1 billion. A Nigerian company founded by a Nigerian that is not up to 40 years old. I don't want to call the name because, but those things are happening. So in terms of is there hope, there is hope. Are we dejected? Yes, because things that could have been done earlier were not done. If you look at infrastructure, you can just name them. Some are not done, some are being done. Maybe in another 1 year or 2 years, second Niger Bridge will be done. And maybe the entire rail line between Ibadan and Kano will be done in another 2 or 3 years. So in the next 5 years, certain things are predictable. Certain things are predictable. Whether it is in power or in infrastructure, we can say that certain major projects will be completed across the country. And therefore, the economic landscape will be different. In the oil and gas, Dangote was mentioned in passing. There are more than 15, in fact, refineries being built across the country as we speak. But Dangote is the biggest. In the next 2 years, most of these refineries will have been completed. And the economy around petroleum products and 30% import bill we now spend on importing of petroleum products will go away. We will no longer be spending 30% of our products. Everybody in this room is probably old enough at the time of the cement Armageddon, when we had cement ships blocking all our ports. Today we have this lost memory. We now export cement to about 15 African countries and more. So yes, there are very deep problems, but in the next 5 to 10 years, certain things will be achieved.
Okay. Your projection gives us hope. I kind of like that. Let me bring the Wogu in. You know, we've talked about young people and the impact they're making, their line of thoughts, and the way they tilt these days. Do you think after celebrating 61 years, we'll get more impact of young people, or we'll have to do something to get them on board?
Yes, the young people we have in these days have really, they have had a very hard time in our country. I really empathize with them. These are people that have never seen the best of this nation, frankly speaking. And somehow, you won't blame them if they are very disillusioned. I just want them to become as relentless as they can be. Let them just keep the fight. Let them have that spirit that they will still see the great Nigeria they have heard about. The Nigeria that their forefathers and their parents have told them they saw, the good old Nigeria. It is unfortunate that they have been born at a time such as now. But if we revert back to the Bible when, Esther was reminded that maybe she was born at a time such as now for a reason and for a purpose. I believe that God must have equipped them with all the arsenals they need to withstand the heat they are facing now. Because I remember the Nigeria we grew up in. It's a far cry from what we have right now. I personally don't envy this young one, and I wonder how, when I look at the very tender one, I'm wondering the kind of future that's awaiting them. And for me, as a parent, as an educator, and what have you, I would just say that they should look inward. I'm sure they will find the potential, the capacity, to forge ahead and make something out of this, situation.
Thank you, Wogu. I get your point. There's something we do on this program. We always allow people on the streets to have a say on whatever we're discussing, and they always have their own angles. So let's take that vox pop.
and we believe that everything will be well. You know, a change does not start one day, it's a gradual. We can achieve a lot of things. It all depends on the policy. Take, for example, like a price control. If you have a price control, all these things will be minimized.
Sometimes we compare ourselves with Western world and other world. We should not forget that those who, if you look at their independence, they are far, far older than us. I believe so much in Nigeria talent. We are highly skilled, and I can see us taking over the tech world. And because I see that Nigerians have really imbibed it, social media, app development, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, really, really, I won't lie to you, the smartness Nigeria have actually put into this. And if we maintain this pace, I see us taking over cloud computing and IT.
The only thing we can boast of is the unity of the country, despite the fact that it has been wobbly, but we thank God that we are still together.
We've heard their contributions, so we'll be rounding off soon. So I want to get your last words on the way forward. Let's start from the ladies first, Dr. Alero.
In truth, I do agree with Gabriel Idahosa. In 5 years, there's going to be a lot of change. The good thing about going to the school of hard knocks is that what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. And definitely the youth have found or are finding ways to create new things, create new income streams, new areas of making wealth, things that jobs and occupations that didn't even exist 6-7 years ago are now, making them a lot of money. You were just telling us the story about two tech experts who've made themselves a whole lot of money by simply applying their knowledge. I like to tell young people, don't just think out of the box, scatter the box and redesign a new one.
That's a new line. Okay, Jimoh.
Well, we should learn to keep hope alive, and we should be ready to face the consequences of the choices we make.
Yes.
So if we can follow these two, I think, because it starts with our recruitment process, leadership recruitment. If somebody will come and give you half bag of rice, and you think that is enough for 4 years of misgovernance, think very well before you accept that 5 naira or 50 naira.
Okay. Prof was talking about the Awolowo time, this time.
Okay, you're interested in that?
I'm interested in that.
Okay, well, quickly, the pre-independence days, the white people, in my view, were able to release part of the governance to the locals, the indigenes, because they were assured their knowledge, their skill. So at the time, everything was based on knowledge and skill. Post-independence, the newcomers, as it were, or post-war, we started thinking that those things that had already been built would not need to be built upon. So we relaxed and did not respond to the present at the time. So what I don't want us to do now is, we are so critical of the youth, but my view is they are the new norms. The youth are the new norms. Let's look for ways to give them whatever we can give them and they run with it. Whether we like it or not, they're going to leave us because we are going to go. And so while we are alive, try as much as possible we can guide them. So the disconnect between the knowledge and skill-based governance and present just consumer-based governance should be re-engineered in a way that we continue to give these people the skill they require to meet the new norms. So my last word is that education, we should go back to education.
Exactly.
And give the real knowledge that is required, the skill that, and let them do whatever they want to do with it. But right now, it's a consumer economy. We should run away from it. We should go back to building economy, not consumer economy.
Oh, thank you so much, Prof. We've had an interesting discourse today on our independence anniversary, and we're talking with Jimoh Mohammed, who's a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on the program.
Always my pleasure.
Dr. Alero, Dr. Alero Roberts, Vice President, Association of Public Health Physicians of Nigeria, Lagos Chapter. Thank you for coming on the program. And our dear Prof, Professor Oladapo Afolabi, former head of the Civil Service of Nigeria. Thank you for coming on the program. And online we've had Gabriel Idahosa, who is the Vice President and Chairman, Trade Promotion Board, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you, Idahosa, for joining us. And Rita, thank you, Idahosa, for joining us.
Thank you.
The Rita Wogu, a lawyer and social entrepreneur, thank you for your contribution. Oh, we've had an interesting discussion, like I said, and there was one point I made earlier on. I said until we get young people involved more young people involved in governance, until women stop dancing and singing at political rallies when they should be asking hard questions, until we all stop complaining and thinking of solutions, both as individuals and communities, we will do better. And maybe when we're celebrating our 62nd anniversary, there'll be pomp and ceremony.
Future is bright.
Future is bright. Thank you so much. So until next week, when another episode of the panel comes your way, I am Jennifer Igwe. Thank you for watching.